Happy Barbenheimer, everyone. I hope you've all been going to your local theaters in support for what has appeared to be one of the biggest smash hits for movies in history, it seems. I believe the opening weekend income gross for both of these movies combined was in the top 5 ever for 2 big anticipated release weekends. Now, what makes this all the more impressive is that this movie is perhaps the most opposite of what a summer blockbuster usually tends to be. Summer blockbuster movies tend to be in the realm of the big bombastic adventure genre, usually with recognized movie stars and an already well-known IP. Now, in the case for Barbie, because yes, of course, how am I not going to talk about Barbie when I'm talking about this movie? It's a world-known name that has played a massive role in at least half the population's upbringing for multiple generations now. So just from brand recognition alone, it was inevitable to make back its budget and a pretty high chance to make a profit. Also, the marketing of it made it out to be one of the zaniest live-action toy adaptations ever made, and along with recognizable big-name stars, the stupid fake smoke from these making me cough. Don't smoke, kids. It definitely fit right in with what defines a summer blockbuster. But in the case of Oppenheimer, this was marketed as a typical biopic about a fairly recent historical figure that played a pivotal role in humanity's biggest conflict and whose influence on weapons of mass destruction haunts us to this very day. A very grim, mature, and upsetting story that I don't think anyone would consider to be fun. This, along with a 3-hour runtime, this is just not what you would expect to be a summer blockbuster. So why do I think this contrarian of a film is seeing success for its type? Well, first off, Christopher Nolan has already established himself to be one of the most revolutionary directors working today for well over a decade now. I would say he didn't really pick up steam with a mass general audience until he did the Dark Knight trilogy. Since then, anytime cinephiles hear the mere mention of his name involved in any project, we just always seem to be excited, and it's guaranteed to, at the very least, be a very engaging and a very immersive movie-going experience. So the biggest standout with the majority of Christopher Nolan's screenplays is the meddling of time. Whether it be intentional jumps in the timeline to create non-linear stories that reward the viewers if you can keep up with it and remember small details, or, in the case of his sci-fi movies, manage to make the unbelievable concept of time travel or any sort of time change or displacement a feasible possibility. Even in some of his most simple script ideas, he always explores concepts beyond what you would expect them to be, and even if they can really get convoluted to follow or just straight up impossible to even grasp, Tenet, I'm looking at you, at least he's always trying something different every time, and for that I commend him. Oh god, I can get lost talking about his filmography for hours, so I'm gonna get straight to why I believe this film in particular represents some of Nolan's biggest strengths that blended his tropes from his most recent films during the 2010s as well as his first few during the 2000s, and maybe even point out some of the weaknesses that have been present in his movies for a while now and that are still here. Oh god, I said it. Let's just hope I don't get canceled for this, because it seems anybody that comes out and says they do not utterly love this movie or that it's not damn perfection seems to be deemed unworthy of valid critiques. So let's see where this goes. So let's suit up, smoke up, and let's get deep into existential dread together. Oppenheimer. With World War II ramping up, J. Robert Oppenheimer is recruited to develop the world's first atomic bomb to bring humanity's biggest conflict to an end and change the world forever. And of course, I'm gonna delve into some spoilers here. So the biggest advertisement of this was, of course, everything involving the creation of the bomb, while any other story elements would be only supporting the core center that is the trial and error process of the science behind the bomb. And the big explosive climax would have been bomb go boom. So after multiple viewings, I can confirm that everything surrounding the bomb only takes up a mere percentage of the movie's runtime. I'm gonna go over what I feel are the main different stories that intertwine with each other, all of them taking place in different times, some taking more place in the past while others more in the present, some pace quicker than others, and some to my liking more than others. So if anything, story structure. So first off, let me make this clear. My enjoyment of a biopic comes down to whether the historical figure lived a life that was so different than most people, or if their influence on the world was in a branch outside of my realm of knowledge, teaching me new things about a particular subject that I never even considered studying before, bringing me a whole new appreciation and perspective to that activity. Oh yeah, and also if the historical figure's life hasn't been exploited many different times already, whether it be through autobiographies, online videos, documentaries, or even other Hollywood movies. This is where the story of Oppenheimer has the advantage. So I'm not entirely sure if there have been other on-screen depiction of this man's life, but this is my first time seeing his story depicted on the big screen. So to me, it's refreshing refreshing and new. So one story aspect we see is Oppenheimer's perspective, from his origins of studying quantum mechanics in college up to the point of his post-atom bomb life. This is the aspect that feels the most like a standard biopic, but it also feels like it takes an entirely different approach than standard biopics. Because we are constantly in the perspective of Oppenheimer, remembering and retelling events from his past, it feels more dramatic and sometimes in the line of a thriller, following the descending sanity of a fictional character set in a true world event, a historical fiction. I loved this aspect of the movie, mainly due to the mystical and equally intense soundtrack from Ludwig Göransson. I hope I pronounced that right. Oh yeah, disclaimer, I'm gonna butcher so many people's names that were part of this whole movie's production. I am too lazy to Google the pronunciations of every single person's name here, so please forgive me. Along with all the trippy visuals just spliced in there whenever anybody would be discussing physics mumbo jumbo. It transformed the complex science of how quantum physics work and made them feel magical. It's one thing when a movie gets you excited on a subject you are kind of familiar with, whether it be an athlete's biopic or a musician's biopic. Going into it as a fan of sports or a fan of that specific genre of music, you're going into the movie just already expecting to enjoy what you're going to be watching. It's a whole other level when a movie gets you excited to hear and learn about particular knowledge that you just have absolutely no idea about. I had no idea what people were saying, but yet I was still excited to try and keep up with it. Everything just centered on Oppenheimer had me so engrossed. Watching his unstable younger ages and wanting to bring the study of quantum theory to America, watching how much physicist riz he had. Seriously, that line about atoms and matter was pretty damn clever, I'm not gonna lie. Seeing him grow into an influential teacher in some of the most prestigious schools in the world, building his empire of physicists, all equally passionate to discover the unknown, becoming the director of the Manhattan Project in a race to be the first to complete the atom bomb before any other opposing nations, watching all the different physicists and other allies Oppie trusted betray him at any point in time, causing major stir-ups of suspected Soviet spies among the project. All of it building and cultivating to the official testing of the bomb sequence that marks the most anxiety-inducing, heart-pounding moment I've had watching a movie this entire year. All to then see Oppie's personal life and psyche deteriorate due to how much time he dedicated and sacrificed to working on the bomb, to then feel guilt over creating such a weapon, which also provided sequence that disturbed me more than most horror movies have been able to. Seriously, the bomb testing sequences and Oppie visioning the destruction of human lives from the bomb is up there as some of Nolan's best work. Now, the other aspect of the movie is really where it becomes a political drama. The other perspective we get is from Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Louis Strauss, a high political figure that is looking to take down Oppenheimer's entire reputation in proving he wasn't, isn't, and should not be trusted with containing the secrets of nuclear technology from America's enemies. These are all the black and white sequences that take place years after the end of the war, and it is all seen from Strauss's point of view, all labeled as Section 2, Fusion. At first, it's set up to be a whole hearing in defense of Oppenheimer, but then, towards the end of the film, it's revealed that Strauss is the one that revealed all of Oppenheimer's secrets. That makes him look like an advocate for communism, hereby an ally of the Soviet Union. Now, why he chose to expose Oppenheimer is shown to be pretty funny, actually. It's all because he feels envious of Oppenheimer's success and wants to ruin his whole life just because he felt insulted by Oppenheimer due to his superiority complex. What the fuck is wrong with politicians? It just perfectly summarizes how politicians truly are. Petty, pathetic beings with bloated egos that feel the need to swing their dicks around to prove how much smaller it is compared to other leaders in high power. A good chunk of the black and white sequences, I do admit, can be hard to follow. One, because the sound mixing is very inconsistent, classic Nolan moment right there, where the music track is too loud, the dialogue is too low to hear clearly, or on a good day, a combo of the two, which is always fun. And two, because nearly all the black and white sequences are a courtroom drama that essentially are just old dudes talking in a room. So fans of that genre or fans of Better Call Saul, I'm sure will be engrossed by these scenes, but for me, it slowed down the pacing at times just too much to my liking, and it was exposition dumping to the point of it being tiring. Again, another classic trope of Nolan movies. To me, a movie where a good chunk of it is dedicated to people sitting and talking is anti-cinematic, but in this case, I can't be upset about it because this is a retelling of true events. The majority of politics throughout history, and especially this event, have been resolved by people in a room talking. So I feel conflicted about all of it still. Like, were the selected key moments presented here the most interesting aspects to show on screen of Oppenheimer's life? I know it's based off of a novel, but you would think that when adapting a novel, you have to take sacrifices and cut out certain stuff that isn't going to transition well into film. Speaking of courtroom dramas, the other story element that is spliced in here is Oppenheimer's interrogation in order to get a security clearance. This is the aspect aspect that really made me start to feel antsy in my seat, because much like the black and white sequences, it really boils down to people sitting and talking. I will admit, a good chunk of the dialogue is engaging, and it does have multiple layers to digest and multiple layers to take in. I feel like even movies that are just compiled of conversation after conversation after conversation, I feel like it needs more than just engaging writing to keep my attention. But that's just me. I understand there is a lot of context post atom bomb creation that had to be touched upon, but was it really necessary to stretch out these interrogations for the last hour of the movie? Especially with the monstrous amount of supporting characters with names that can easily get confusing to remember. Also, speaking of it, was this really a movie that required to be shot on IMAX cameras? I mean, if one has the option, who's not going to want to film with IMAX cameras? At this point, expect every Christopher Nolan movie to be shot on IMAX, because every studio he works with will for sure provide the funds required, no questions asked, despite the number of IMAX cameras his productions have destroyed in the past. Yeah, the most expensive form of shooting a movie in the world currently? Nah, pocket change for a studio that works with Nolan apparently. IMAX cameras in a nutshell allow the movie to be projected 70 millimeters on mega-sized screens, the biggest in the world, with large amounts of clarity and crispness in the subjects, and adds a lot more depth to the background of each shot. Because of this, it does make more sense to shoot in IMAX if you're shooting, let's say, a movie that has a lot of dynamic movement with the camera or a lot of action set pieces to make them all look more impressive. Prior Nolan projects such as the Dark Knight movies, Interstellar, Dunkirk, even Tenet, it does make sense to go with IMAX because these movies had such visually ambitious compositions. These movies are renowned for their visuals, and it's because of IMAX cameras that Nolan has been credited to be a visual mastermind. But again, for a movie that mostly takes place indoors with people sitting and talking, I honestly do not really get the big talk and hype of watching this in IMAX that Nolan is putting into this one. At this point, it just seems like he's flexing at this point, because not every movie production gets the privilege to use IMAX cameras. All I know for sure is that there is no way in hell he is letting his cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema go anytime soon, because he has been making Nolan's movies look visually spectacular ever since Interstellar. With him behind chief of lighting and camera, I guarantee he can make any movie look incredible even without the use of IMAX cameras. Another aspect I wanted to touch upon were all the performances. Since this is more in the realm of a drama, when I saw the whole cast on IMDb revealed earlier this year, my brain just exploded. It just went nuclear bomb mode, because levels of excitement I was feeling to see this amount of recognizable actors that I have enjoyed watching in every other project they have been in, most of which tend to be in a whole different genre than this, was extraordinary. So I'm gonna breeze right through the ones that stood out to me and how awesome it is to see these faces in a Christopher Nolan movie. Cillian Murphy has been in nearly every Nolan movie and has always been one of the best supporting characters in each of his performances. So to finally see him take on a leading role now feels so earned, and I'm so happy for him. He deserves the acclaimed praise he is receiving, because I don't think any other actor could have portrayed the story of this man better. He started off so charismatic, but to then have such a gaunt, haunting, disturbed look to him at all times just fits the narrative of a man's mental state descending into fear and guilt over creating such a weapon that can destroy the world. Emily Blunt, although a bit limited on screen, represented the destruction of Oppie's personal home life due to the bomb project to an absolute T. Matt Damon, as a stereotypical no-nonsense military general that had to be the tough ass in charge of the project, was satisfying. Robert Downey Jr. Hey, I forgot that actors that have been a part of Marvel projects for this amount of years are still capable in giving convincing dramatic performances. How nice. I wish to see more Marvel-based actors be in more dramatic roles like this. They deserve the break. Alden Ehrenreich? Han Sojo? He gave some pretty funny comeback zingers to Strauss, and the tone of his voice just conflicted with Robert Downey Jr.'s performance. I don't know why, it was just so funny to me. Jason Clarke as a sniveling interrogator towards Oppie's unfair clearance meeting just made me hate him, and watching Emily Blunt's character outsmart him in debating her case was oh so satisfying to watch. Kenneth Branagh's voice in this movie just defines the word sophisticated to me. Enough said. Tom Conti as Albert Einstein was strangely adorable. Einstein is just so cute, like a little puppy. I don't know why I said that. He looks like a dog in a cartoon that got transformed into a human but kept their dog hair traits. Alex Wolff represented the nerdy physicist out there, was pretty cool, and it's nice not seeing him get absolutely destroyed by a demon this time. Dylan Arnold as Oppie's younger brother. Yeah, fuck this guy. Not for his performance, he was fine, but fuck this guy for dating Victoria Pedretti. Piece of shit. Florence Pugh as an emotionally unstable, codependent communist? Yeah, I really gotta go see a therapist. Also, I really do not think her nude scenes really contributed much to the overall story, and it really felt just shoehorned in just to add in some spiciness for the R rating. Or hey, maybe I'm just pissed because we got to see her boobs but we didn't get to see Cillian Murphy's dick. Equality, bro. At least give him some prosthetic balls for me to look at. I mean, you know, for the audience to look at. Fuck. David Dastmalchian as one of the two-faced politicians that expose Oppie's secrets made sense because bro's got a creepy face to him. But that's like his best asset, and it makes him always engaging to watch. Speaking of sinister looks to them, Dane DeHaan was like the best choice for the two-faced military dude that spied on Oppie during the Manhattan Project. His face and voice just perfectly represents a weasel. Just the look of a total bitch. Am I allowed to say this? This is all complimenting to Dane DeHaan. I have no issue with the actor. Motherfucking Josh Peck as the official bomb detonator for the Trinity test? I mean, come on. That's like the most Josh Nichols thing ever.
And it's spherical! Spherical!
Benny Safdie as the most extreme physicist on the Manhattan Project that later on threw Oppie under the bus to save his own ass? I mean, didn't expect anything less from one of the directors of Uncut Gems. Motherfucking Devin Bostick. Having just 2 lines and 1 shot of him throwing up? I mean, what can I say? Roger rules. This just confirms at some point that Nolan took it upon himself to sit down and watch Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules. And that is just so wonderful. I mean, ask the man himself.
Roderick Rules?
Yes!
Rami Malek's eyes remind me of a pug, so he's always fun to look at. Am I the only one that sees it? Wait, Gary Oldman was President Truman? What the hell? Colonel Sanders ass voice. That makeup and old man weight really be doing a number on people. Overall, I feel the multitude of the supporting cast I wanted to see more of, but considering the number I mentioned, which is just a mere percentage of the total cast, I understand the limited screen time that they all had. But hey, I wish all these actors the best, and I'm glad that they can all at least say that they have been in a Christopher Nolan movie. This movie feels so different than any of Nolan's movies from the past decade and a half. It feels more in line with Nolan's genre pieces like Memento or Insomnia that prioritize character perspectives more than over-the-top plot. Even though the majority of the story is told from Oppenheimer's perspective, it feels like he is constantly a morally gray, complex person who you just can't seem to pin down of what he is truly thinking during this whole event. He's morally gray. From his messy personal life to the unimaginable stress and toll he experienced, this truly is one of the most unique character pieces that I can recall from recent memory. I would never imagine a filmmaker like Nolan would ever tackle a grounded story like this so far in his career. And for that, I do admire his ambition to dial it back and tackle a methodical, heavy thinking concept like this one. I still acknowledge that at times, this movie really came to a halt for me with the pacing, but it's still pretty damn impressive when something this lengthy can get me invested in researching more about history. 8 out of 10, an unprecedented character piece with unforgettable adrenaline-inducing moments and pacing bumps. Let's try the Cillian Murphy death stare.